welcome back to discussion. I'm just kidding, guys. What the heck? That was crazy. Good day, UA&P. Welcome back to discussion room 95. We know you guys are back because you had a good time the last time. So this time, we're gonna promise you that you're gonna have an amazing time again. Right, guys? Right, guys?
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, so for this episode, I am gonna be your main host for tonight. Again, I am Rafi Leon, a first-year MEM student, and together with me are... Okay, go guys, introduce yourself.
Hey guys, so I'm Rock. You can call me Ramon Amon. I'm a first year media entertainment management student, and I'm just really glad to be here because I'm excited about what we're going to talk about. And lovely people here. Let's get it on. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh,
So guys, magandang gabi, hapon, umaga. Or guys, whatever time of the day you are watching today's episode, my name is Erin Palaypayon. I am a first-year political economy student. And guys, this is my second time hosting for the episode. Woo!
Hey,
Yeah,
welcome back,
Erin.
yeah. And then, of course, we have our first-time host. Let's drum roll, please.
Okay, save the best for last. Guys, my name is Sam Salazar. You guys can call me Sam. I'm a first-year media and entertainment management student and first-time host for DR95. Let's go!
Let's go.
Yes, go,
Welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This school year just ended. Oh my gosh, aren't you so relieved? I'm honestly so relieved.
1 year
that-
down.
Finally,
Right?
guys.
That was even our first year, and it's just sad how we only spent one sem in the school. I mean, I really do miss it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
And oh
But
my gosh,
hey,
yeah, Erin.
I mean, when you think about it, Rafi, over the course of the months, yeah, it was really hard for us, but we managed to pull through classes ended last May 23. And guys, I hope you submitted all your requirements already. I mean,
For
Yeah, you
sure.
guys.
yeah.
Guys, parang a weight has been lifted sa akin. Parang the
I
news.
know.
Oh my God.
Same,
tapos na.
Sam. Finally.
Can you imagine it's done? I mean, our first year's breezed by.
Exactly.
It hasn't felt that long.
And what I think it's just what makes our first year different is that we had to transition from face-to-face classes to online classes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
with that being said, I wanna raise the question of, was it really effective and conducive for learning? Okay, so with that being said, we have 3 fellow dragons to share with us their experiences with this transition. We have Gita Manuel, Keiko Exiomo, and Joson for the roam.
Was the transition from face-to-face to online classes conductive and effective? Well, I believe that the system that was in place for the implementation of online classes was rushed a bit because I felt that both the teachers and the students weren't prepared for this at all. And of course, it would take a little bit more time for people to get used to the new normal. So although that this needed to happen, I felt that it was rushed and in a sense that it wasn't that as effective, especially for us students to actually learn anything. So in a sense, yes, it does get the job done, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is effective in terms of the liberal education standards or the education system that is here in UA&P. So I do feel that it was effective for the purpose that it is, that to provide education during this lockdown quarantine period. But in a sense, effective learning-wise, I don't think so. Especially for someone that has majors, it is very difficult, especially when you think about knowing humanities. As a humanities student, it's very discussion heavy, and majority of what we do in the university is discussion, feeding off each other's ideas. Really, the discussion with the prof is where we learn the most. And of course, transitioning to online classes doesn't necessarily help us learning either. So it was very difficult to adjust. But I felt that in time, as time progressed, the teachers, the professors, and the students slowly started to adjust. And yeah, I think it became sort of successful. But again, not everyone has the luxury of having proper internet, proper Wi-Fi. So that's also something to take note of, especially when thinking of a solution for UA&P. So
Hey, I'm Justin, 265P IMC student. If the effectiveness depends on whether or not the students are still able to do and manage work, then I think it was somehow effective. However, that doesn't entail that it was easy. It really does vary per student and the circumstances that surround them. For example, there are students that I'm sure had a low internet connections and ones that are inconsistent, whereas it's only reliable at a certain time of the day and when they're in a specific location within their homes. And regarding their homes, they might not have a certain space or a good location where it's ideal and conducive for learning. It might be a tight space. Their homes may be rowdy, and there's difficulty in that. Apart from that, it really depends as well if the work given to them is still manageable and their work ethics. Because personally, I didn't have much difficulty with the transition. My professors were considerate and understanding. However, there were definitely times when I didn't have any motivation to do any work and I was dealing with some personal issues, which just led me to want to rest and stay in bed. So I could not get much work done. That's all. Thanks.
Everyone, my name is Gita Manuel, and I'm an incoming third-year student under the Masters of Art in Communication, major in Integrated Marketing Communication, and a fellow scholar here in the university, answering two questions for you guys. First, was the transition from face-to-face classes to online classes effective and conducive? And second, were online classes effective? To answer the first question, I think that during the first few days, or at first, it was ineffective but understandable since everyone was in a state of shock. We were all in a very confusing time. We didn't know what to prioritize first. We had to think about our well-being. We had to think about the welfare of our family, the health of our family, and we also had to think about the food security in our households with the lockdown in mind. Another thing that made me think that these online classes were ineffective at that time was the fact that I had to think about two things. First was, as a financial aid scholar, how am I going to be able to accomplish my hours before the deadline? And if I don't accomplish those hours on time, then I might risk losing my scholarship. The second thing is that me and the rest of the scholars have to think about reaching our grade quota in order to retain our scholarships. This adds more pressure to me since I'm not really the type to really learn well in an online setup, since I prefer the classroom setup. But it's also very hard for those who don't really have the adequate means to adjusting to online classes. Um, but with the advisory of ManComm, which made professors more understanding and lenient with the submission of students, and the guidelines that there will be no more, they will waive the grade quota for scholars and the work hours for financial aid scholars for the second semester, then it becomes better, it becomes effective and conducive. Another thing that made online classes effective for me was that I had classmates who were very generous and very thoughtful to help in disseminating information and announcements from our professors to our other classmates. So I think they really helped in making me adjust better to the online classes and in making it more effective. To answer the second question, I believe that it really depends on the subject. It depends if the subject really requires the dialogue between the students and the teachers. It is effective for those subjects that can survive on reading materials alone, on PowerPoints alone. But for those subjects, such as literature, which requires an exchange between the student and the teacher, it becomes really hard for it to be effective. Um, in my personal experience in having a literature class during the lockdown, it was really hard since usually um, when we all agreed to have online video calls for classes, it was just usually our professor talking since it wasn't really feasible for us to all talk at the same time or to have recitation during the video call. So it was usually just our teacher and papers for us to go through with the SEM. Um, Also, I think that another thing that made online classes ineffective was the fact that there were glitches from Canvas. First was the fact that sometimes I can't even get announcements. I can't really get notifications about the announcements from my profs regarding like the deadline or the preferred deadline or the online assessments that we have. And also, there was an instance where we had to take an exam and there was a glitch worth 18 points. So when this happened to us, it actually risked us having a really low grade if we didn't point it out. So this also added to the factor that made online classes ineffective. However, on the brighter side, there were also professors who made online classes effective. Since they were more understanding, they tried to cope up well. One of my professors made a SoundCloud recordings of himself. Another made recordings of himself sent through PowerPoint. Um, Another sent PowerPoints, and um, some were really understanding of our situations and were really lenient with our submissions. Lastly, I think that as a scholar, I really want to help my fellow scholars and my fellow non-scholars to um, adjust better, especially with this incoming semester, which has the implementation of the blended learning. With this, I think that we should all take into consideration the things that we should and should not apply for the next semester, so that the things that made online classes ineffective will be remembered, so that we can do things to make online classes better for everyone and to make sure that no student really gets left behind. So it's like a working collaborative effort between all the stakeholders in this institution, with the ManComm, with the students, with the teachers, and everyone. So, yes, here it is. Thank you very much, DR95.
Okay, my gosh. Wow, you know what? That was super relatable in my case. How about you guys? Were you guys able to relate to
Oh
that?
no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
definitely.
I want to raise
No?
that point talaga. That
What?
if you let me, I'd like to raise it first.
Yes.
I just appreciate how each had their very own unique perspective.
Yeah.
Because obviously, this whole encompassing situation, the fact that each student from every year has to feel it with different circumstances. For me personally naman, I know that I can speak for all of us here. We're all freshmen, right? You already mentioned,
Yeah.
Raf, that we had to deal for our first year, we had to switch up to online for like the last leg,
Yeah.
which is such like a confusion, a moment of just what. So I appreciate the
Yeah,
fact that they bring their own perspective, people who are different
Yeah,
from us. So I wonder what you guys think. Like what's your reaction first of all?
For me, can I go? Yeah,
Yes,
can I go
yes,
ahead?
go,
Yeah.
go, go, go.
I generally get what Gita said, na parang the first few days were ineffective but understandable. I mean, when you think about it, guys, from first sem nga naman, na parang we got so used to like going to class every day, seeing our professors and like,
Yeah.
being with other students, to suddenly, second sem you're like, boom, like learning through a laptop screen. So I get what when Gita said na parang it came as a shock. It was like, considering na we didn't know what to prioritize first. I mean, we had to think about
Yeah.
ourselves, our family, like, if we have enough essentials at home, and considering that there's so many things going on outside as well. And then add to that, we also have to accomplish, our responsibilities as students. So I get na parang it's very overwhelming, and it's like, it's confusing at the same time. So yeah, I just get what Gita meant.
What do you think, Sam?
Let's go, Sam.
Okay, so naisip ko lang is super duper difficult siya sa start kasi when I got home, all I could think to myself was out there, it's so wild and ang daming nangyayaring masama, and plus the pandemic is just like driving me super insane. And
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
to add to that, I was kind of looking forward to finishing my first year here in school, but then I had to, stay at home and be with my family, which wasn't really what I was expecting. So it was definitely hard at the start, but throughout the months that I was going through it, I think I kind of managed a bit, but it was still kahit ngayon nahihirapan pa rin ako, but kaya lang. Go lang.
That's true. You know, honestly, what made it easier for all of us was the connection of us students to the school. And I think that that bridge was the USG, because that really is the role. They're there to connect us to the school. You think after sending out all their surveys, proposing all their suggestions to ManComm, you think that these were enough to connect, to do the role as the USG? You think they were able to connect the students to the school? What do you think of that?
Somehow, oo. Kasi although it's not exactly like the USG is communicating with the students directly, like a conversation, that you're actually messaging them, like it's still an avenue for them to reach out to us. Kasi you can't say na the student government didn't try at all. There's students too, and even if sabihin mo upper bachelor, so more so that they will understand us and all the whole student body. Kasi ando rin sila sa school and they're experiencing the same stuff that we are. So I think it's really good na they're looking into everyone's experiences and perspectives.
Yeah, and I think they were, sorry.
Yeah, no, go
Okay.
ahead, Rafi, go ahead.
I think they were able to address our concerns somehow. Because, like, for example, what Geeta said, the ManComm's advisory was able to, I mean, it was clear to her. This one really helped her. And for me also, it helped me adjust better, because after all, we can say that our internet connections haven't been stable, and that goes for most of us, right? So in a way, the advisory that was sent out by ManComm was really able to do something, and it was really effective. So props to the USG also for initiating that.
Yeah, and can I just add na parang, okay, so, for my case kasi, I would like to say na yung advisory ng ManComm was like, na-apply naman ng professors in a way. Kasi for me nga, in terms of like leniency ng professors, they're actually very understanding. I mean, there were numerous times na parang when I would email them to say na parang, oh, I would like to apologize that I won't be able to submit this requirement due to like personal concerns or like yun nga, internet connection. They would understand, and they would say na parang, okay, it's fine, we'll wait for your paper, and there's no like heavy bearing to it, which is good din kasi 'di ba nga, isa sa mga academic guidelines ng ManComm was that you could students who are unable to complete their requirements or submit their requirements on time will just be marked as in progress or IPR, and they'll be given the chance to submit the requirements from May 31st to June 1. But guys, that doesn't mean na dapat sagarin natin yung deadline, okay? Submit pa rin your requirements on time. But I'm just saying na yun na nga, parang the professors were more lenient and understanding towards the situation of us students. So,
Yeah,
I
in agreeing with that point, what's very important right now is to understand the entire breadth of the situation. Because as you guys already suggested, you already brought up the different policies. Number one, they've already done something rather than just leave it as dead air and just keep on trying and failing. They've set ground rules already, which is what brings it to, in my perspective, we have to now understand every action of every party and what's happening now. Because from a few people, sources in the background who experience the same things we have, it's been suggested or inferred that, again, when you start at the beginning, ManComm reached out to USG and asked if they could publish the survey, the every week-long survey that was to get in touch with each and every student and try to see what their state was like. And obviously that would connect to practical things like the connection of their internet and et cetera, et cetera. In that, a lot of interesting things have developed because number one, from what we've heard or from what I've heard also, ICT, which is the internet department or the internet connection department of UA&P, because of that, because of what ManComm had established with USG, they had seen what was going to happen and they actually inquired with ManComm to share the data and the results. Because of that, that data would apparently be used for teachers within the seminar for online learning that they've been having for the past few months. And to me, at least, when you see that point, regardless of your stance on the policies that ManComm, or at the very least the school has been giving out so far, from what you can see, at the very least, this sort of action creates a ripple effect. And in that ripple effect, there's change being done. Now, on to how that change is being done, that's again up for debate. But my point now is that we should all at least look at every fact and base our judgment from there. So if you guys have anything you want to say, yeah.
Yeah, and with that being said, we really do feel that ripple effect, right? I mean, it's applied to our classes. And I think what's also important with the guidelines is that they also didn't only address us students. I mean, they took into consideration the scholars. And like what Geeta said,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was part of the guidelines that they waived the grade quota, because I can only imagine the struggle that most of these people have to go through in terms of, again, internet connection. And that's why it was also heartwarming how they were not left behind. I mean, we really are all in this together, right?
But I have a question, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so if you noticed, parang Geeta and Justin kind of had similar opinions na parang the transition naman from face-to-face and to online classes were like effective in a way, ganyan. But for Keiko, it was actually different. She said na parang the whole thing was rushed and hindi siya effective in terms of learning. Parang it's more on just getting the job done. But it doesn't mean it's effective learning-wise. What do you guys have to say about
with
that?
Keiko's point, kasi
Yeah.
I find that really important, the point that Keiko brought, because here's the thing again with the choice of action. Obviously, it's an action that's determined by the higher ups who have to, number one, put importance of the school above all else. Obviously, that's come with heavy criticism, and that's why Keiko already suggested, as being a very active member of the student body or of her school and her orgs, it's very, very poignant how she says that it simply just isn't efficient, because that's where the sentiment should lie. Even if these decisions aren't very conducive for the students, it is our job as those students to continue to voice that out. It's important that whatever kind of consensus we can reach, it at least reaches the ears of those who can do something about it. But again, if you look at sites like the two others, there is merit to what's happening, and we shouldn't really forget that, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to get through this together. So you were gonna say, Sam?
Okay, so for me, I think it's not exactly the best but it's like the only working alternative right now for me. You can't really discount the fact that everyone's trying their best to hold their reins. Everyone's doing the best of what can work. It's a bit exhausting because everyone's subjected to different circumstances, households, financial situations,
Oh yeah,
even mental health. So it gets even more
Yeah.
difficult.
absolutely.
There are certain things that, for me personally, I can easily learn when I'm in a classroom, but then when you're sitting in front of a laptop for like
So
a
hard.
few hours and you still
can
don't
be
get
hard.
it, it's really frustrating because you keep on putting the weight on yourself na kailangan magets ko to, but then you can't kasi you don't have enough knowledge within you to actually understand. You can't confirm na, oh yeah, I get it now, and no matter how much I twist it, I can still understand. But then, no, I can't. Kasi you can't, I think you can't push through with it unless it's suitable for everyone and all the resources and facilities are available and utilized the best.
Yeah, and because the thing is, we all have different workspaces, right? I mean, compared to a classroom, we sit in a chair with aircon, with everything. I don't know if we're being spoiled, but for some people, it's not the same. I mean, at home, we don't always have our own workspaces. I mean, I'm only lucky here because we have a study room. But I mean, there are people who take spaces from their dinner tables or like their beds to study, and it's not as effective, right?
No, I agree with you guys kasi, okay, so with what Sam said nga, diba, na parang it's more difficult learning and like at home and stuff like that. I could honestly say the same. And with Ate Keiko's point ka, na parang there are subjects na parang need talaga ng face-to-face discussion. And yun nga, with my case, okay guys, so one of my subjects is philosophical anthropology, right?
Okay.
And for me, it's so hard to just like understand the concepts and the terms through videos. Like I genuinely understand it better when I'm in a classroom and my prof thoroughly discusses like all the topics that we're gonna, talk about. And the fact is, nabibigyan kasi ng concrete examples eh. I mean, yeah, you can email your professors, but it's not really the same. I mean, when like I have questions agad na na gusto ko agad masagot because like I don't understand, hindi siya possible kasi parang, you have to email, you have to wait,
Are those synchronous or asynchronous classes? Like what you have for
It's asynchronous, yeah. I mean, it's just
I
yeah.
see.
So at least, yeah. Yeah, and because the thing is, what's hard also is that not all profs stick to one platform. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Oh, no.
Oh my gosh.
The more than
Yeah,
one.
I am so
Man.
sorry,
See
but
you, I see you.
oh my gosh, this is where I have such a hard time. And like, I don't know if you guys experience it too, but it's hard. Oop. But it's hard to be.
What are you guys talking about?
It's hard to be tackling Google Classroom or like Zoom all at the same time, you know. I find that so confusing. Like, okay, for example, in one of my subjects, oh my gosh, she doesn't use Canvas, but she uses Google Classroom. Okay, nothing new, right? But the thing is, she does. Okay, sorry. Not to be like mean or anything. I'm just laying down some facts.
Relax.
Chill.
But like,
Easy.
what was hard also is that if your teacher goes like MIA for the first 3 weeks, and then here comes the final week, and then she drowns you in one go, and I'm
a
just
big
like,
yikes.
yo, now I suddenly
big
have no
no-no.
time for anything. And the thing is, I get so concerned and frustrated when sorry.
It's okay.
she gives instructions past school hours, because okay, ideally online classes, I mean, I don't know if this is right, but we're just like transferring online, right, from face to face to online. I don't know if that's supposed to be the case, but the thing is, the amount of time to complete our requirements is far too excessive compared to the school hours. Okay, well, that's only in my case, okay, disclaimer. And come to think, I mean, I just think maybe they think we have all the time for this specific subject only, but no, we have a subject with other requirements, and we have
Yun,
other
guys.
priorities here at home. Okay, to think about
Exactly.
it, it's really different. I mean, school to home, there's really a big difference. I have to, I don't know, maybe take care of my siblings. Do I do that? But, you have more priorities at home, right?
So basically, starting again from people, at least I know outside of school, who have to deal with courses that require more than just the simple materials. For art courses, they need canvases, paintbrushes, stuff like that. It's not something you can just get from home. And they're expected to put their output online, right? Or if we segue that back to, let's say, a UA&P standard, we can bring something up like law or political science. Again, you can find materials online, but if your course is that heavy, if your professor requires much more than that, which I'm sure happens, you need those materials outside, and you simply can't get them, or it's way too hard for you in your household. So imagine all that stress is weighing down on you, the toll it's taking, and you still have to comply. That's why I think it should be an understood sentiment that because people complain, because people air out their grievances, it's their way of coping and with dealing with all the stress, right? Like, you can agree with that.
Yeah, we dealt with the same
Yeah,
stress,
definitely.
right, Sam?
We also have to give credit naman sa mga
Yes!
professors.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say
They're
Actually,
also
yes,
very
OMG.
considerate,
No,
right?
yeah.
I mean, let's not. Okay, so example for my case, guys. One of my subjects. Okay, you can go after me. But okay, so one of my subjects, right? So there was an instance kasi where my friend shared na hindi niya na-take yung first long exam namin. I was like, oh no, what are you gonna do? And I was like, have you tried emailing the professor and stuff like that? And the professor answered naman, and like, we're gonna talk about it kapag nagkaroon na ng pasok ulit. But obviously, that didn't happen. Di ulit nagkaroon ng classes.
Sad.
But guys, yun nga, what my prof did for that subject was, she gave us bonus work. And the bonus work was super easy, guys. You just had to either, one, do a poem, or two, you just had to take a picture of yourself in the Filipiniana attire and just like take a selfie with your thumbs up.
So fun.
There are profs like that. So, yeah, shout out to my prof.
Guys, but that is true, no? Like, you feel in your case, Erin, and of course, like, for me and Sam also, we feel more comfortable and more confident if our profs assure us that everything is gonna be all right, that that we're in this together. Because the thing is, we have this other prof. The difference, man, is that her main platform is Canvas. So like everything is there. It's all organized. Every week we have specific discussion threads, and she really makes it clear that where our direction of our lessons are going. And like I just want to bring this up, right? Yeah, I just want to bring up the fact that even if there is a lack of human touch online, she makes us feel this. Because the thing is, she shares with us her sentiments, her anxieties, how much she's also struggling, how she's struggling also with us,
Yeah,
and sometimes
it's very
even
relatable.
more. Yeah, right? And she really assures us na, I'm gonna help you pull your grades up. And the thing is, what makes it more believable is that she follows up on each person, making sure that they don't miss out on the opportunity to raise their grades. And I find that, oh my gosh, she's really so nice. She really
It's
puts
admirable.
the extra effort there, right? But you know what? People, listen. You don't have to be responsible. Our profs we don't need to be spoon fed. Okay?
Whoa,
What do you
whoa.
mean not responsible?
No,
What?
I mean like, wait, why does she have to, follow up on each student path to raise their grades? Wala lang. I'm just saying, guys, let's all be responsible because we're in
It's so
this together,
sweet.
Yeah.
It's so sweet, yeah. And
I agree.
she does give bonus discussions and recitation grades, just to make sure na we're still learning. And she's trying to make it as effective as possible. And especially that she makes it clear where the weight of our activities are going. Like, for example, if we do this discussion, it's going to the recitation grade. Gets? Like, she adjusts it
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Does that go for you guys too?
Yeah, yun nga, in my experience naman, every prof does their best. And they do. I really do believe they do their best to adjust because just
Yeah.
like them, they have to deal with in-house conditions and their own mental health while they have to compute for all these grades and account for all these students. Which is why I want to bring the point up that across the board, profs are doing as much as they can. That's when you look to the systems that our university
Yeah.
implements. So I want to bring up my point naman that just as profs do that, Canvas can do that. Now let's just say that
Yes.
at a time like this, adjusting is such an overused word, but with a platform like Canvas and all the new features and all the features that profs are still adjusting to, what do you guys think about having to envision an entire semester just used on that single platform? Like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, I wanna add to that question also. Like, do you guys think that Canvas is ready to become the main platform for online classes?
I mean, okay, Sam,
Okay,
go
Erin,
ahead. Go ahead.
Bato.
Oh my
Guys,
gosh,
wala,
so paano
nahiya
ba
pa.
to? Paano ba to?
Okay.
Okay, so,
Erin,
no, go
let's
ahead,
go.
Sam.
Okay, let's go.
Sige pa,
Sam.
what? No,
Okay,
go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
Michael, let's go, Sam.
Okay, so for one of my subjects, it's a really hard subject. Okay, well, me, I find it hard kasi it's math. Tapos yung prof na
Oh,
yun,
yeah.
as in super
Same.
cute niya kasi
Oh, jeez.
di ba nga everything has to be online. So what he does is he sends out 3 versions of the same lecture. So the first would be like a 40-minute video with audio. Thus the second is just a PowerPoint with audio na you have to click it one by one. And then the third is just a PowerPoint. So he actually made it like super flexible for each student. Kasi on my end, there was this one time na super pangit ng Wi-Fi namin. As in my whole family is on Netflix. Because the Wi-Fi was super slow.
Oof.
And then
Oh my gosh, same.
because he made like 3 different versions of the same lesson, I could easily learn it. Like I was accessing it on my phone lang through mobile data, and I was still learning. So he was really, how would I say this? He understood na some of our Wi-Fi can be really bad, but he was still looking after everyone. Super cute. Kasi I feel yung love niya, guys.
Feel it.
Wow.
You gotta feel it.
Yeah. Pero yeah, that's true, diba? Like, there are actually some subjects na dependent on a lot of hands-on activities. Like, for
Yeah.
example, I want to bring up again what Geeta said. She was saying na, for example, for her lit subject, the importance of the exchange between the student and the teacher is really important.
Yeah,
And in her
definitely.
case, that wasn't effective online. Kasi what happened was the prof just ended up talking. They don't get to, not everyone was able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
And to add lang, guys, so I don't know if for your subjects. So, akala mo magkaiba ng subjects. But I mean, for your profs kasi, I mean, okay, so for my case kasi guys, we had to do yung parang online discourse. Like, you have to comment down your opinions and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah,
that was, I mean, okay, it was helpful naman in a way kasi nga you get to understand other people's perspectives and insights on the topic. But it's also difficult kasi hindi further ma-explain nung student or nung professor yung sentiment nila. So, you just basically had to read through the comments and you're like, okay, how do I
Yeah, diba? Kasi
process
kapag,
this?
when you're in the classroom, it's like, like that.
Yeah,
Tapos
yeah,
parang kapag nasa
yeah.
online ka, parang, okay, yes, yes, super
Very
tagal, diba?
disconnected.
So,
Yeah,
when
and
you're
like
in the
what's happening with us
classroom,
now? We don't even know who can speak first.
Yeah.
Very divided.
so wala nang bounce ng information because you have to wait for the others to talk and then you have to type and then mag-iisip ka pa and then it's not spontaneous anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is also though with Canvas, what really helped me the most was the calendar. I don't know if you guys use that
Oh,
also.
sobra.
But
Yes,
No, number
Diba?
one.
It really syncs. It syncs all of your
Sorry,
subjects.
hindi ko
and,
ginagamit
like, your
yun. Sorry.
Yeah.
Aaron,
Sorry,
next
guys,
time.
sorry.
Try it.
Next
try
time.
it.
Next
I
time.
swear.
Use it.
Noted.
Yeah. And what I find, Canvas was really so much more organized. Like compared, kasi nga we had a subject diba in Google Classroom, and I found Canvas really more organized with all like the pages, the grades, the quizzes.
Quizzes. Yes.
Yeah.
Diba? I found that more. It was helpful for me to learn because everything was organized. But then the thing is also nga like what Geeta raised, there are glitches and it's inevitable. It's okay. But the thing is, that's where like the risk comes out. Na like for example, she had to risk like 18 points in a test. Like my gosh, that's so dami kaya.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
yeah, in bringing that argument to another level, let's all at least continue to understand the limitations that a platform like this can give, or not can, sorry, it does give. Because
Yeah.
again, at this point in time, we don't really have any other choice to continue learning. At this point, we have to accept that you can bring up the argument that as for organized and as, I would like to use the word innovative because there are a lot of features I would not expect for as innovative as an application like Canvas is. Again, the spontaneity, the feeling of just you're in a place of learning, it's just not there anymore. And I know it's not gonna click for a lot of people. But moving forward, let's just continue to at least try to keep ourselves up with what we have. Because I think that's the number one thing, like going forward, even outside of education, we just have to keep working with what we have. So,
Yeah,
do you guys have any other
definitely.
opinions on that? Because it's a big topic.
Yeah, you know what? I just feel like actually Canvas really it's a learning management system, and it has so many features that we have yet to discover. Like for example, kasi as of now, diba, we're still for example, for synchronous classes, we're still based on Zoom, right? But you know what? Apparently, what's this called? Canvas. It also has like an interactive component. Like
Oh, really?
It's called
Oh, it does?
conference apparently. Yeah. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, what's sad is that we didn't get to maximize lang. But for sure, our profs are still, undergoing that training.
Yeah.
To,
Seminars, yep.
the webinars. Wow.
The webinars.
The webinars.
To understand the whole system of Canvas. And what I think, okay, like for example, a lot of our subjects have adjusted the grading systems, right? Adjust to online because again, not everything is tangible online. So, I just want to say I just want to ask if a lot of us have been questioning the school, complaining how why are we still studying if we're not even learning anything? But the thing is, we have to take notice also on our profs who made the time to actually adjust the grading system and put more weight into more tangible and observable outputs, diba? So like for example, they decreased the percentage for recitation because that is based on face-to-face interaction, and then they added more weight on the papers, right? So we tend to complain a lot na ano ba yan, like why do we have so many papers? But we also have to take into consideration that this is what online interaction. This is how far online interaction can go, diba? So
Yeah.
what do you guys think
And-
of that? You guys
Yeah.
have, yeah.
Well, number one,
Okay, you guys go.
yeah, I think it's important. Again, back to the point I made earlier. It's fair to have those grievances and complaints. That's healthy to bring it onto your system. Moving forward now, though, with the topic that we just brought up, again, it's a chain of actions. These profs that have to adjust their own personal grade systems and their way of learning, that's directly from people above them who have to tell them you have to adjust, you have to make do with what you have. Obviously, like you said, Rafi, specifically with how they shifted grades from recitation to written because you simply just can't have the same effect anymore now. What I like to bring up alongside that is the fact that a lot of people find it pretty. I don't want to say controversial, but it's definitely up for discussion. How it's either you're incomplete or it's you have a numerical grade. Obviously, many different perspectives have been brought up on this. Number one, a lot of people say we lost the value of learning, which is valid in itself.
Yeah.
And number two is that it's very unfair for people at this point in time who are still adjusting to be forced to deal with this same course again the next sem. Again, when we're looking at all these different elements of what's been given to us, it's important that we keep understanding everything and we keep bringing up general thought. We keep bringing this up in discussions. Like right now, we're in a podcast. Wow.
Yeah.
We're talking about it. We're trying to keep it as compressed and as concise. That's super important.
Yes.
So before I wanted to bring up another point, but if you guys have something else you want to say, Sam, Aaron?
I think
Not me?
putting more weight on papers is more difficult for some subjects than others. Kasi let's say literature yung subject.
Yeah.
It's usually like reading heavy, so it's easy for you to find the words to explain what you have to do. But then other subjects, they rely on application and real life na ginagawa mo talaga siya. And
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so hindi mo necessarily masasabi na I absorb the right information or I'm actually doing it right. So it still depends on the criteria set by the prof in terms of writing.
Yeah.
Compromising with like the professors and the students. I mean, hindi naman pwede na tayo lagi yung mga grievances natin yung masusunod. I mean, we have
Exactly.
we have to be considerate of
Yeah.
everyone, not just us. So yeah, that's my
Yeah, with that being said, Erin, again, there is really a big adjustment on the students. And that's what we notice because we are the students. But you cannot, no way, but you can't imagine how much bigger of an adjustment that would be on the teachers, on the profs, right?
Yes.
So I just wanna bring up and commend them on like having to undergo training again with all the webinars and everything. If it's worse for us, how much worse is it for them? Because I mean, after all, they're the ones preparing the tools, and if we're having a hard time, so are they. But then I just wanna. Okay, a lot of people are saying, you know what, I can just learn all these stuff online and I can just search it up on my own. But the thing is, guys, these profs, they're not only a source of knowledge, but then they act as facilitators. They they're the ones who diba? They're the ones who makes it, they adapt it to what our brains can handle. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? But right?
Yep.
So I
Absolutely.
just want to ask what do you think will be the positive change from the profs training, even if we're still restricted by some technical factors? I mean, we can't forget that there is still the concern of the internet coverage in remote areas, right?
The big positive, I think, with having to big positive changes is that I think we're just growing, and not to keep it simple, but in learning how to persevere in a time like this, especially for arguably profs who have so much of a heavier load on them compared to us. It's very telling naman that okay, they're willing to make the sacrifice to try and do their best. But that's why I want to bring out that the very subtle positive change underneath that now is that we're becoming so much more vocal about what we feel and what we need.
Yeah.
Because again, if you guys noticed, which I'm sure everyone has naman, a lot of students, even those who have been super passive before, yung parang walang sinasabi before, now they're really just going all out.
Speaking up.
They're speaking their mind, right?
Mm.
And I think
Right?
if I had to really give one subtle important thing, it's that it's made everyone very critical of their surroundings. It's made people aware of what's been happening around them, and they've been able to just bring their ideas out in their own perspective. And again, moving forward with how we deal with different situations, how we deal with different profs, because again, the number one sentiment we have had on this podcast, even in the earlier episode, was that no same person has the same situation. Because I know you guys hear a lot of, horror stories about profs who aren't very good at what they're doing. But again,
Yeah.
the people that undergo that, they still persevere. And they will always have their respect naman from us that they continue to do that. And in their grievances that they air, it's our job as a collective student body try to keep pushing forward together to find a solution together alongside with the profs. So that's, my take. I don't know what you guys think.
Who wants to?
Me, I think I'm super duper appreciative of the profs who are trying their best to understand the technical side of the education
Yeah.
that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
Yeah,
teaching.
definitely.
Kasi,
That.
but teachers have their training on a classroom
Yeah.
base, so they practice in front of students.
Oh,
but
yeah.
then now it's like, whoa, I'm not in
Whoa.
front of my
Oh my
students anymore.
gosh, yeah.
So parang it's all
Whoa.
very different. Na they need to make sure the information that they're posting for the students is easily understood. So for students who learn best when they listen, some put out video material or audio sa
Yeah.
SoundCloud, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Ako,
Mhm.
I like that kasi I can go back to the information. And
Yeah.
for people naman, kasi diba, when a prof teaches, tas minsan he doesn't like being disturbed, so you can't go back and ask anymore. But then kapag sa audio, you can still ask them to go back, and then they also become particular with not making very long memos per lesson na it's difficult to understand. So they just made sure that everything is just short and concise, which in my opinion is easily understood by everyone. That's my take.
To add lang, so I feel like siguro yung mga lesson plans ng profs ngayon, whoosh, out the window,
Yeah. Wait,
everything.
no
and,
naman.
and no, I mean, in terms of the setting, I mean, obviously their mindset was okay, we're gonna see each other in class, I can give these types of activities. But then now, parang I think in in the future, possibly in the next step, mas more equipped yung activities na mabibigay nila. If ever we're still gonna do online classes compared to ngayon kasi parang medyo everyone's yung term na ginagamit ni Rock, everyone's still adjusting. So that's why yung mga activities, it's true, medyo magulo sometimes, and minsan biglaan na lang na, may gagawin pala tayo on this subject and that. And one of my profs actually, parang isa sa mga na parang nasuggest niya was that, maybe yung mga lectures na gagawin niya na in the future are more, kasi yung mga binigay niya, guys, it's more on just readings and videos, you have to watch. But now, parang sabi niya, sige, para for the next sem, if ganito pa rin yung situation natin, I might send videos of myself explaining the lecture na lang for you guys. So, I mean, in a way, parang more on really adjusting talaga not just us students but the professors in terms of their teaching style, the activities that they're gonna give. So that's it.
Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
go, Rock.
If it's okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Rock. Go ahead.
It's very substantial that we can all collectively agree. All four of us, we're freshmen, and this is our first year in college, and this is how we've experienced it.
Yeah.
But to really expand that horizon, when we look at, again, in the three individuals within the room and their experiences as people who have already gone through years here in UA&P, when we tackle this kind of topic, it's also very enlightening to just see how that happens with other people. So that specific point I bring up, obviously, people with majors. Now, obviously, we don't have the experience to talk about how it's like to be in their shoes. But at the same time, it's almost like you get that same sentiment from them, but it's heightened because, in other majors, right, you can generally just say having that is just having twice the workload already dumped on you compared to us freshmen. But again, it's like the same exact thing we're going through because those people who I know background people are in, who really told me and they've reflected, we're not really going through a different situation, but as different people going through the years, it's just we're experiencing the same thing, but it's at such a different level. So it's just so it's really good to just put your voice out there and to listen to what other people have to say, even if you can't put yourself in their shoes, because you can give very substantial content of your own for them.
And
Yeah.
to add lang, oh sorry, who
No,
goes?
go ahead,
Me?
go ahead.
Okay. Just to add lang, okay, so guys, for me kasi, when I, coming into second sem and I found out that these were like the subjects that I was gonna take, I was super excited and genuinely interested to like learn about it already. And imagine that for the people who have majors na parang finally they're gonna tackle like subjects that are related to their course. So I mean, imagine na parang, oh, they're so excited na baka na finally they're gonna learn, yun na nga, that's something related to their course. So imagine na parang ngayon, it's more difficult for them. I mean, for us, guys, wala pa tayong majors, but it's
Yeah.
already difficult for us to really,
Exactly.
hindi naman, I'm not gonna say na parang ma-appreciate yung subject, but then the essence of it, like really, mas mahirap siyang mag-grasp, lalo na for people with majors na parang now they're like, taking subjects that are related to their course. So baka, hindi, like what Ate Keiko said, na parang discussion heavy and stuff, hindi niya fully ma-appreciate or fully
absolutely.
maintindihan yung topics or subjects that she's currently taking. So yeah, that's my take on the whole like major situation.
Yeah, I just want to add to that kasi nga Ate Keiko also, she raised the fact that it does get the job done. Like online classes gets it done, but it's not effective in terms of the liberal education standards. And I find this so important because that is the bedrock of our university. We talk about, we're all about the liberal arts education, right? And what really is, we're just fortunate enough that this whole course, okay, the whole liberal arts education consists of how to be human, okay? How to be, it's the humanities. It's understanding how man lives, how he grows in virtue, all those things, right? So I think we should, like, we're only fortunate enough that, that is our basis. And we have to use it to our advantage that we can adjust. Like, we can make all of these happen. And considering that everyone is adjusting to the new normal, there will be technology to still cater to meet the needs of teaching. I mean, even if it's gonna be hard, as long as we know that we can trust the school and that they're willing to undergo this process with us, even if it's going to be hard, we can trust that. I mean, let's try to continue to impose that to other people also na it won't be as easy. It will be a rough ride for sure, but considering that everything will, it's not okay, sorry. It's gonna
Okay,
again,
wait, guys.
it's
I
not,
have a question.
okay.
So
Yeah.
you said na it's gonna be super rough and all that. What do you
Yeah.
guys think about taking a gap year?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's a heavy question.
Wait
You wanna
lang.
go first, Erin? Raph?
Kasi
Ikaw.
for quite some time, the phrase is being thrown around na maybe I should take a gap year. Kasi it's not just one thing to take a break because you're tired. It's because you need to take a break. Because for some people, it's more important to actually experience it the way that it should be experienced. So, feeling ko, naiisip nila na they won't be able to fully absorb yung pinaka-important subjects na critical to the entire 4 years of your college. So, to most, it's better to get your money's worth than rushing into
Yeah.
it. So, what do you guys think?
Honestly, like in this situation, I think it will kind of be advisable, especially that we're undergoing this whole economic crisis. Really, we have to take into consideration, guys, that learning has no calendar, okay? We can use that advantage that if we want to work first, we can use that to our advantage, to our experience. Now, as long as we get as much experiences as we can, that will only lead us to like learning more, and which is like actually the whole point of living life, right? We learn more. And actually only here in the Philippines na people are so like nagmamadali to finish, to get a degree, to work up. But the thing is, again, we adjust to the times, to our situations now. And with this being said, people can only get so much done, right? So if they don't, for example, if they're having to go through major spa and they think that it won't be as effective, then go ahead, go work first, go take a gap year, and just
Okay, but
get all the
how will
experiences as you
everyone
can.
work? How will everyone work if we're in a pandemic?
Yeah, yun nga. That's what
why,
I was thinking.
right? It's like we also it's like well, of course it's gonna be based on which industry you're gonna take, right? But then, for example, to the business industry, I brought this up in the last podcast, wherein a lot of micro businesses were starting to sprout, and if you want to focus on that, then go ahead, right? But then, of course, it would also depend if, for example, what are the other if you're, I don't know, politics or something. I don't know how that's gonna work. But then in one way or another, I'm sure you're gonna find a way to, just explore what you can do. And especially na during this pandemic, I mean, you're given you have the time to think about it, right?
Yeah. For me, at least, it's very telling. I actually like the phrase you used, get what your money's worth. Obviously, when you brought up the idea of a gap year, Sam, it's very important because when you use that idea, you trace it back to the cause. So in that, I want to bring up the idea of obviously the school tuition, because I'm seeing circulated around a lot, at least personally. A lot of people are honestly, it's very warranted naman that you're wondering, why am I still paying the full amount if I'm not even going to be at the university? Like, the number one valid thing that people have been saying is that obviously you don't need to cut tuition to such a large degree. But say if you remove small substances or small elements, like say cutting tuition of the library or of the actual facilities, because number one, because again, those aren't faculties that we can even reach right now. So why do we have to pay for it? But at the same time, sorry, I'm gonna veer off a bit into the actual, the money aspect of it. Again, in understanding how it will be if you do take that gap year, you have to understand the money flow of it. The number one reason, at least from what I've heard from a lot of other background sources as well, people I know who are in the same situation and know a lot more than me because I'm not an economics course taker, is that at the very least, when it comes to managing a university, right? A university has funds for the next foreseeable few years.
Yes.
The number one reason why the college, at the very least from what I've heard, is asking for the same amount of money is because, number one, they have to keep that pool of saved money for the next few years that happen.
Yeah.
Number two, they have to pay all the people that are still technically working.
Exactly.
Obviously now, a lot of the cleaning personnel, maintenance are going back to university ever since, I think, Monday. They've been cleaning, they've been doing their job again, so they have to pay them. Number two, they have to pay the profs that are still trying to adjust their learning for us. That's two. Then you have to go through all the background personnel, people working in ICT or in CSA, who have to keep the school running. Like, you have to realize you're in a lot of people who still have hands-on work. They can get it done at home. Let's say ICT, they have to keep internet servers up, or they just have to keep the digital servers in general running. They can do that at home. And so they're still working a job, and so they still need to get paid. So again, when people try to understand why can't we just pay less, it's because the chain of command, they simply can't afford to let any funds get loose at a time like this when economic prospect is uncertain moving forward. So in influence, okay, go.
I want to add to that.
Yeah.
Because that is true. I agree. And because of all the overhead costs, we have to pay the people, pay for the staff, the school, the buildings that aren't finished. But if you think about it, on our side also, us students, we spend more money on the internet, on laptops. Right? On our side also, that's going to be hard. If we just think about just paying, I mean, for the salaries of the staff or for the building or something, on our part, I mean, it is a learning limitation, right? We still have to spend that money for our own advantage, for internet, again, for laptops. I mean, after all, this is not cheap, right? That's why a lot of people also have been like raising funds for that. They've been trying to address this sort of limitations, so at least we can be on an equal level as everyone. But then again, even if the tuition fee is not, I mean, even if we're still paying for our tuition fee at like the same rate,
Yeah.
we end up spending more at home.
Oh no, yeah, it's very important to see
yeah.
that. And again, going back to the point that I made initially, it's important you understand that factor before you make any decision with what you do with, say, a gap year, or if you have to make a family decision going forward with your education. Because I don't know if you guys have had people you've known who've been in a situation like this, but I know personally a lot of situations where a family does one thing. They keep their child and they have to keep paying, but they have to balance the other funds they have as a family. Number two, they end up cutting off their child or their kid from the university or school because they simply can't afford to keep the money flowing. They end up using the money that was originally for tuition for their own personal funding. So obviously, again, it all connects.
Taking a gap year can help me explore more kasi considering me nga as a political economy student, I'm not really sure how it's gonna look like for the next
Yeah,
sem
that's
considering
good.
So yeah, so parang with that nga, now that I'm hearing your perspectives, now I'm getting more insight as to nga naman, like maybe a gap year can help me further explore what I can do with my course. Considering right now, medyo mahirap kasi I'm a political economy student. So I don't know how that's gonna, go in the next sem or more.
Yeah, this
So
this
that-
is
Yeah.
important.
But the thing is, kasi we also can't underestimate what the school has for us, the plans they have for us, right? Because again, they're still preparing for this. And again, the internet is just a vast sea of knowledge. And even if we try to get as much lessons as we want online, and if we think na we have the judgment to choose what we want to learn, if it's appropriate, then we're actually not correct, because we have teachers there to guide us. They're trained to do this. They're trained to prepare the scope and the sequence, to identify the requirements per topic if they're appropriate for us. And again, their job is to facilitate the delivery of the entire course outline. So even if, despite all the info on pretend a certain topic, the teacher is still there to do the advanced review of related literature for us. And I think that's what's gonna get us somewhere. Like, even if it's good if you'll take a gap year, as long as you get all the experiences that you can. But then again, the school still has a lot to offer for us, and we don't want to, even if we don't want to be too limited or conscious about what we're gonna learn in the books, the technical learning,
Yeah.
it's still important to learn how, to deal with these kinds of situations. So I just want to say na, it's really something to think about. But then
Exactly.
again, let's still not underestimate, the school.
Definitely not. And
That's my only
again,
point.
Oh, sorry.
sorry, do you want to go
Wait,
first?
we'll go first.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, I just want to add na nga, na parang as I've mentioned, hindi naman talaga nag-cross sa mind ko yung gap year kasi right now, ang daming adjustments na ginagawa ng university for us, our professors. So I
Yeah.
honestly want to see how that's gonna turn out and how they're gonna apply those adjustments to the next semester. Who knows, guys? Malay nyo naman, the changes that will happen in the next semester are better equipped for our situation. That's why, yun nga, in terms of like taking a gap year and stuff like that, it's really something that you have to think about, considering that maybe next sem, our school is more adjusted to the situation. That's also something I'm considering in terms of
Yeah.
taking a gap year.
But I
Yeah.
think the gap year, it still stands on two things, which is privilege and priority. Because,
Yeah.
Yes.
di ba nga, yung
Wow,
pera
I like that.
is... Oh, of course. Okay. So,
Thank you, Sam.
The money rolling in isn't really happening right now because the whole economy just stopped. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
some people would actually not consider it because they need to shell out their money on the most important stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow or in the future, or how
Yeah,
long this whole
exactly.
pandemic is
Yeah.
gonna be. So I think for some people, they're considering what would be the best for now than what would be like waiting around to see if it would actually work. That's
Yeah.
what I think.
It's important to, and it's very healthy naman to note that at the present time, collectively, we're all deciding what we're going to do next, what our actions will be
Yeah.
for the future. Because I feel like for the past few months, we've all, at the very least, most of us have at least settled down into adjusting. Again, that's a big word.
Yeah.
But now I'm very glad to see that now we're all trying to collectively think about a good way to plan ahead. And looking at the situation now, bringing it back with, obviously, I think we can all collectively see that the next sem at the very least will be consisted of this blended learning that has been brought up. Obviously, going back to what I mentioned, how background sources, people would say that ICT did collect the data from the surveys from ManComm and USG to further refine the webinars that teachers are having.
Yeah.
So looking forward now into what is pretty much next up for us. It's already May and we're heading into June. The fact that announcements have been made on Facebook primarily. You can see that UAP at least has stated at one point that blended learning will happen for the first sem. So in your guys' eyes, how exactly are at first you guys are gonna adjust in an environment like that? Now that we just had a tail end of a year like this, how's it gonna be starting over at the same rate again? Like, what's that?
I feel like, of course, this will differ per person kasi we have different learning learning, what's the word?
Learning style.
Learning style. Learning
style.
Yes, okay. Like, for example, me, I'm an audio-visual learner. But like, no, guys, just kidding. I'm a tactile learner. There. Okay, so it means I would be more confident in a face-to-face, in an interactive right? I mean, more than the screen, the laptop screen. So I feel like for me, I mean, blended learning, I think it's a good compromise to all of our different learning styles, because we still get to interact with the prof. And I think what's gonna be hard is that, for example, if we're gonna have majors next year, what's hard is that we don't even know who our prof is. We don't know our like classmates or whatever, right? So I think it is a good compromise. Now we get to interact with those people also, even just for a little bit. Yeah.
Are you guys talking about synchronous learning?
We're talking blended learning. It's essentially
let's lay down the facts. Blended learning is the mix of face-to-face classes and online classes. So there will be specific days where we can go to school, and I think not all of us, there's only like a maximum number of people can go, to still observe social distancing and all. But yeah, what's your take on that?
What's your take on it, Sam?
Actually, I think it's still pretty difficult because we don't know what the situation is going to be in the following
That's
days.
important.
But
Yeah.
I do like the effort that they put into making it work for the students and finding other alternatives that we can.
Yeah, actually,
And
sorry.
go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
In Sam's point kasi, I failed to bring it up earlier, but thank you, Sam, for bringing it up. Yun nga, with blended learning kasi, there's a sort of question in the air that asks, so what's the state of it if we're gonna face-to-face each other now? Because we talked about it in the last podcast. We went super in-depth about it. But again, how, our overall government, how policies have been made, the state of how our nation has dealt with the pandemic isn't necessarily at an optimal level yet. What I mean by that is obviously, going back to the point I made, there has been no mass testing. There isn't any real ground for steadying that curve. So what the school has so far put out, obviously with this idea of blended learning, how we're already going to go face-to-face even if we don't really have the level of, we don't really have that level of equity yet with the nation. So it's like, it's very, what do you think, Aaron? What were you going to say? Because
I'm actually... Yeah, so yun na nga, with blended learning, I'm actually curious to how UA&P is gonna be like. I mean, in a classroom, what's that gonna look like? I mean, it's really yung mga ganito na things that, makes me curious as to how the students will adapt to this change nga, na parang, it's like what you said nga, Rafi. We all have different learning styles, and it's good that there's a compromise na it's a combination of face-to-face learning and like online learning. And that's good. Pero, yun nga, for my case kasi, my concern lang is, how is that gonna work? I mean, it depends ba on the subject? I mean, kunyari, with PE, how is that gonna look like? Are we gonna apply, like, face-to-face, or it's still gonna online? Does it vary depending on the subjects that you have? So that's what I'm more curious, but at the same time excited about, to see how the university and the students as well like adapt and like to the situation and the blending learning. It's
Wait, so you
blending
guys
learning,
said
blended
the
learning itself.
students
Yeah.
are gonna go to school? Tama ba?
Yeah. well,
Yeah.
Like,
Super
let's
weird.
say you live super far. How is that gonna happen?
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yun nga eh.
Yeah, Sam.
There's a
I
lot
really don't
unclear.
get it.
Dorms,
Kasi,
like
okay, you're
Yeah, it's
safe
super hard.
inside the school, but then when you go to school,
When you travel,
commute,
it's
or-
a risk.
I don't get how it's gonna happen.
Good point.
Me also.
Yun nga, that's why the point again brings up that we have to call into question what the specifics are of this blended learning,
exactly.
right? Because there's so many.
But then
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, but that's why we can't like really dwell on that now because the guidelines haven't been finalized. They only gave us a hint of like what might happen,
nga. Yeah.
next semester.
Might.
Yeah,
So
what
might-
might happen.
So
That's why I think we have to prepare na rin. I mean, yun na nga, yung release of statement regarding the blended learning. I think it's just a way of the university for, preparing us mentally and like for us to see now what's the future for us this coming semester. And it's like, how are we gonna, mentally prepare for it? I think that's more on like, that's why wala pang specifics as of now, considering na what it's not really discussed yet, and like the USG still hasn't talked to the student body about it. So yeah, I think that's why we can't really dwell on it too much yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Agreed.
it's all still so uncertain, and I mean we can most definitely say that this whole adjustment has been a working collaboration effort with the teachers, with the staff in school, the admins, everything. And as much as possible for now, let's deal with the now first. I don't it's good to think about what the future might, what might bring us, but then again, let's also take advantage of the time that we have here to gain as much experience as outside academics. It's summer. Let's enjoy and
Yeah.
explore what we can do, right? So
Yeah.
I think this concludes our episode.
Pretty much, yeah.
If you guys
but-
have final remarks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Rock.
Keep going first. I am so sorry. There's a lot
No,
I
go
wanna say.
ahead.
Rock. Go ahead.
Yun nga, again, the number one disclaimer we bring is that for as much as, as our platform encourages everyone to do what they can and do what they want with the time, it's just, again, important that you just keep aware of your surroundings, what's happening with you.
Yeah.
If you disagree with the fact that this isn't the time to try to find enjoyment, that's absolutely okay because everyone deals with this situation their own way. It's just that moving forward now, let's begin to dwell with what we can do long term. And if that kind of plan involves finding different things to do right now before the future happens, then so be it, right? So at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Let's just do it in ways that are the healthiest. So you guys have anything?
And just
Yeah.
just to add to that, knowing na parang with our experience this semester, let's try to like take in everything what we've learned, reflect on it. Because I mean, for the next summer, we're not really gonna know how it's gonna look like yet. But now na summer na natin, I think now is the best time to really think about what's the future gonna look like. But at the same time, guys, take the time to discover yourselves, how to better yourselves, and how to fully equip yourselves with the adjustments that we're going through. So yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah. For me naman, I'm gonna look into my camera. Take care of yourselves, guys. If you have like friends who are, you're aware that they're having a much more difficult time during the pandemic, like financially, spiritually, mentally, it won't hurt to reach out to them. So it takes like a simple message or one phone call away. Just ask them how they're doing because you don't know. Everyone's having a hard time. You don't know what's happening behind the walls of their homes and if they're still okay. So it won't hurt to talk to your friends and lend a hand to them. And everyone please relax because it's summer now. Oh my God!
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Congratulations, UA&P community.
Agreed.
So you guys, thank you so much for reaching the end of this episode. Again, take care of yourselves. think about the long term. But of course, don't stress on that. I mean, we got you guys. If you have a disclaimer, these are all our opinions. If you guys want to raise
Yeah, for
anything,
sure.
Personal opinion.
we'll be active in our Facebook account and our IG
Wow.
account. So guys,
A place for
head on to
discussion.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for listening and happy summer,
Thank you.
guys.
Love your parents. Love your
Thank
family.
you so
Love
much,
yourself.
guys.
Happy summer.
Bye.
Wait, again. Wait, no. Happy summer, guys. Again, I'm Rafi Leon. I was your main host. And we had...
Rock.
Go, guys. Rock.
Aaron.
And
Sam.
yes.
And
Yeah.
Sam. Thank
Thank
you
you
so much for
guys.
listening.
Love yourselves. Love your
Thank you,
parents. Bye, guys.